Thank you all for being here for this is our first in a Lunch and Learn series. I'm really excited about this, this topic specifically. This is my favorite topic, but also really excited about this format for FSG. So we're learning this with you. This is our first Teams webinar. So if there's any technical issues, or then apologies, but we will work it out. There is a place for feedback. I have a link to the evaluation form in the chat, but also there's a QR code at the end if that's the easiest way. So certainly if you are watching this on the recording at the end, we'd really appreciate your feedback using that QR code. Okay, so our goals for today. I love family meetings. I love them in all the formats, on lots of different topics. I think these are incredibly helpful in so many ways. So I want to transmit my love of the family meeting to everyone who watches this presentation. I want to provide actionable tools that you can use at home with your family or adapt to meet what your family needs. And I want to provide some ideas for ways to flex the sort of general structure that I'm going to talk about based on the development of your family. So what your family specifically looks like, and what the members are and what their needs are. The slide about me. So many of you, you might know me, you might not know me. This is a little bit more about me than I generally talk about. But I am a licensed clinical professional counselor here in Illinois, and I graduated from Adler University with my master's degree. My undergrad, which is not on here, but I went to the College of William and Mary in Virginia, and I grew up here in the North Shore of Chicago, and I'm raising my family here as well. One of the things when I went to grad school, I knew right away is that I was interested in family therapy specifically. I went to grad school as a young parent myself, and realized it's really hard. Family life is challenging. There's a lot of demands on parents, and that doesn't really end. The challenges in working with families until, like, forever. Families always need to be able to find ways to work together, and so this was something that I sought proactively extra training in throughout my career. So I have completed Northwestern's 40-hour divorce mediation training. I don't currently practice divorce mediation, but I will tell you, I use the skills that I learned in that class to mediate all sorts of family conflicts, and to manage conflict in other areas outside of families as well. I have quite a bit of advanced training in family therapy. So specifically, I have completed an 18-month learning collaborative in child parent psychotherapy, which is an evidence-based practice with children ages 0 to 6. I am a perinatal mental health certified clinician, so that involves both individual and family therapy. And I have completed some advanced training at my last workplace, where we all had a year-long training experience in family therapy. On a personal note, I have been married for 20 years, so I know a little bit about the challenges and joys of long-term relationships. I have 2 teenage children myself. And then what I didn't put on the slide, but I will share, is that my parents divorced when I was a young adult. And so I have some lived experience with different kinds of family structures. Okay, let's talk about my favorite topic, family meetings. Okay, so what is a family meeting? These are structured weekly check-ins. There is a routine agenda for these, so they should not be like surprising or gotcha moments in any way. But the agenda can be flexible, so you can sort of add or remove or change things as needed. Some of the goals for family meetings include ironing out logistics, and that could include what I might clinically call a collateral, but that could include pulling in outside supports. Like if you're talking about a family with young children, you might have grandparents who join some of the, who are part of the conversation for logistics. So this is like literally who needs to get where. So this might, if there's like a doctor's appointment that's happening in the middle of the school week, making sure we're very clear who's taking them, how they're getting there, and that the children know that this is happening as well. We're talking about promoting developmentally appropriate responsibility. What does that mean? That means we're trying to help everybody in the family have ownership of their own schedule at some level and making sure that they are able to ask for their needs, and with some reasonable expectation that the family is going to work with them to get those needs met. And then there would be natural consequences if family members sort of forget to put their needs on the schedule. And so this might look like um, a child who forgets to put um, a special event at school on the family's radar, that the parent might not know about, then they might not have whatever special thing they needed to bring to school that day. Um, or for an older child who forgets to put track practice on the schedule, they might need to wait a little extra at school until um, a parent is able to move their stuff around to get there. And again, this is key that these consequences, natural consequences, be developmentally appropriate. So just want to stress that. Um, okay, and then reducing conflict. So this harkens back to what I mentioned about ensuring that everyone's needs are met. We want to make sure, like in the moment when there's like, if we don't plan ahead of time, handling these logistics or things that come up in the week can be very stressful. And when things start to become stressful or surprising, that's when we can get reactive and less able to calmly work through the details that are needed to make sure that people's needs are met. If we feel like other people aren't taking our needs into account and thinking of us throughout the week, that can make us feel reactive and maybe short, and then make it hard for us to, again, smoothly go through these things. Now, I will immediately point out right now, you can't plan for everything. Something might come up during the week. A car might break down. Someone in the family might get sick. Things are going to change. But if we have a rough plan going into the week, it will help reduce conflict in the middle of the week when curveballs come in. All right, so when we talk about mutual emotional support and connection, this is an opportunity during the week to provide a time that everybody knows the family is going to connect and can identify stressors and supports, can celebrate achievements together, and can sort of honor and recognize each other's strengths. One example that I will give of this, when I had my weekly meeting with my family on Sunday, that's when we do it. I shared with them that I was going to be presenting today on family meetings. My kids, they're teenagers, so they did the predictable eye roll thing. But at the end of the day, they were like excited about it because this is a part of our family routine, and they have gotten used to knowing that they have this kind of time to make sure that their needs are met. Now, let me put a big caveat on all of this. These meetings are not meant to replace open dialogue without any agenda. So these meetings are meant to be in addition to what I might call free play um, time or free interaction time, like family dinners, screen-free car rides, a family play, which and that can look like lots of different things, but family play might look like a walk. It might look like just goofing around. It might look like board games. It could look like a Lego time. It could even be, but screen-free interaction is what I'm talking about, just connection time. So these meetings are very helpful, and ideally, by providing a container for the kinds of content that I'm talking about here, it will allow for more of the what I'm calling free play family time, without having to think about logistics and how we're handling the next day's plan. All right, let's talk about how to. At first glance, I think that 6 steps sounds like a lot. So I'm just going to say that up front. The first 3 steps are set up. So once you have these things in place, they are largely taken care of. So step 1 is to have some kind of calendar sharing. Every family has different access to different technology, different resources, and in different levels of comfort with tech. I tend to recommend um, Apple, Google, Skylight, other kinds of technology for a lot of people, as more and more of us have our calendars digitally. Having some way of sharing calendars with each other is good. I have seen this work out differently for different families. So in some cases, this is just straight up one shared calendar that everybody puts their stuff onto. That's not the way we do it in my family, but that's okay. The way we do it is we use Google Calendar, and everybody has their own private calendar, and then we invite each other to things that we think impact that we know impact each other. I don't know exactly how Skylight works, but I think this is another sort of version of this. And then, but for young children, the parents might have a more of a digital shared calendar, but then you might go with an old-fashioned paper or dry erase calendar that nobody can sort of edit, that kids can just see some of the boulders that are happening throughout the week. Again, I'm flexible. I'm not here to sell any kind of technology. You need to pick some kind of calendar structure that's going to work. Step 2, make sure everybody can use it. And so I put this little parenthetical in here. If a child is old enough to have a smartphone and, watch videos and play games and, do anything, send an email or a text, they are most likely old enough to use a calendar. I'm hoping. So I recommend that that be part of the responsibility of when a child is getting their first smartphone. Great. Now, in addition to all the cool things that you can do on a smartphone to communicate with your friends and others, we are also going to teach you how to use this as a tool to help you collaborate as a family. I have also taught grandparents how to use these shared calendar invites, etc., because especially when my kids were younger, they were part of our family's logistics. And to me, as a parent, I found it way easier to send. I'm already putting. I'm going to use a personal example here, but I'm already putting my son's track meet on my own Google Calendar. I'm sharing it with my husband. I'm sharing it with both of the kids in the family, so everybody knows that there's this track meet coming up. And then, but I also know that the grandparents might want to be there. And so I'm going to send an invitation to grandparents or maybe other family members. And then it's right there on their calendar. They can decline it. They can message me about it. Of course, we've had a conversation ahead of time about that before I do it. Okay, so everyone knows how to use the calendar. Now, for the meeting structure itself, I recommend finding a day and a time that in general works. Now, I'm not talking about the way we have it work, like our standard FSG staff meeting is every Monday at 1 o'clock or 1:30. I'm talking about in general, after dinner on Sunday. That's when we do it in my family. We don't have a strict time because I have teens. We live family life, and realistically, dinner is going to happen at different times. And sometimes it's not going to be at dinner because we can't all eat together because of whatever activity somebody has somewhere else. And so for us, it's just that whatever time we can find at the beginning of the week is the right time for us. It's going to be different for everybody. So some might rather do this on a Saturday, some might rather do it on a Monday. Particularly, I am a fan of doing this on Sundays because it then allows you to sort of set the whole week up in advance and then stick to it as closely as you can. We're going to talk a little bit about flexing these meetings later on. In the meeting, we do a day-by-day review of the week, making sure that all important activities are in there. And when I say important, I include things like self-care, social time, and then I think it's important to include work, whether that is a teen's part-time job or volunteer responsibilities, parents' work meetings that are in what I might call the family time, and make sure that that is all accounted for. If this is an opportunity for kids to do it, it's going to be really tempting if you have an older child to like do it, put it on there for them. But as much as possible, if it's 100% their thing, throw it on there. And again, we're going to talk a little bit about what this is like with younger kids and how this meeting sort of changes later. Identify any logistical hurdles and make a plan to address them. And then finally, take a little bit of time, just add an open-ended moment here at the end to celebrate anything that's any achievements or anything that's exciting that we're looking forward to, and then also to talk about stressors, anything that people need support on that maybe hasn't already been addressed, like open-ended. Now, my pro tip on here, Once this comes really naturally, this may just come up once the meeting structure itself is sort of set and you're really fluid on that. I encourage folks to take a minute to reflect on what went well during the week before, what hurdles did we have, how did we work together as a team to make sure everybody's needs were met. The key is that this is not a blaming opportunity. This is more of a reflective team approach. Okay, so now we're talking about variations. I went through kind of one general structure. Now we're going to talk about all the different ways to manage this. And then there's one other variation not on this slide that I'm going to add. Okay, so infants and toddlers, um, they're not going to sit down for a family meeting. That would be ridiculous. But parents, absolutely can get going on this. And I think there are plenty of opportunities for parents to start these conversations during the process of becoming parents. So during pregnancy, during an adoption process, during fertility treatments, there are a lot of logistics that go into becoming parents. And then when the kids are little, there's lots going on. Go ahead and start these meetings um, as soon as possible. There is a big change that goes from becoming two independent adults to adding more people to the mix. Now, I think there's a very similar structure that can be done here if there are siblings who are making plans to care for an older adult, maybe, and there's a lot going on. Great. Make a structure for an adults only meeting, so to sort of the siblings to talk about what might be going on and make those plans. All right, so now we've got young children. This again may be an adults only meeting to plan out the logistics, but I recommend some kind of visual calendar system and a check-in with the kids. So a conversation. So once the adults have worked out all the logistics, it's then saying, okay, young child, um, we want, like, this is what's going on this week. And it might be the same thing every week. It may be that you've got swim on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but it's important for kids to know, to begin to learn how calendars work. But also, a lot of kids don't do super well with surprises or changes to their structure. Children really thrive on knowing what is going to happen, and it gives you a chance to get some of their feedback, but also will help with those transitions when they know what's coming. So once we get to middle grade, kids may start to have some experience with device usage, whether that is through school or home use. They may have a school iPad or Chromebook. They might have something at home. If they have a device with a calendar and they've got some ability to use it's probably time to teach them to add some things on there with a lot of structure and support from parents to make sure that everything gets there and everyone's safe and all the logistics are handled. But let's start teaching them how to do it. Based on the attention span of middle grade children, this may be not a meeting with all the siblings together because that might just take too long. It's a long time to ask kids to sit and like attend to a meeting. So you might want to do a meeting with one child at a time to work through their logistics. But again, some kids might be perfectly fine and able to do that. So you're going to flex this to meet your needs. For teenagers, we are talking about folks who are better at using devices than their parents, and so or other caregivers. So they should be 100% responsible for putting extracurriculars on the calendar: club meetings, sports practices, meets, games, social events. And this is where I start recommending adding those natural consequences for forgetting to add things to the calendar. So they might need to walk home or get a ride. They might have to wait for a pickup. We do need to make sure that we take responsibility as adults to let them know about the adult obligations that might impact them: doctor's appointments, car in the shop, um, parent travel or meetings, um, or parent self-care where we might not be available to them. If they are a driver themselves, incorporate them into the logistics plan for driving younger siblings, or parents if needed. That's a part of one of the privileges or one of the responsibilities that comes along with the privilege of being a driver in the family. Okay. And I would say the teen variety can continue if you have young adults in the home. This is a very similar meeting structure. Anybody who's like living together would benefit from a meeting format. that kind of follows the teen format. So let's talk a little bit about divorce. Um, as much as you may not want to do family meetings with your co-parent, um, the some kind of planning is really essential to make sure that everybody's needs are met. Exactly who attends what meeting is going to depend on the family. So some co-parents are able to meet just themselves and then sort of walk the kids through the plan. Others might be able to do a meeting with everybody. And then some others may need to meet separately with the kids and then communicate in some way with each other. I know there are parents who need to use specific apps that are ordered by the courts to co-parent. And, using all of those things is great. There needs to be some kind of real-time communication um, between a parent or caregiver and the child about any changes to the parenting transition plan because of a parent travel or illness or something else going on. And ideally, we don't want the main goal here is we need to avoid having the children get pulled into any kind of conflict between the people that they love the most. So parents should be working out any kind of issues of conflict or change ahead of time and then communicating these to the kids. And then the kids need to have an opportunity to request changes as well. So if there's a sleepover that might be closer to this parent's house or on this parent's parenting time, if if a parent needs to make a doctor's appointment but they can't find one for the child during their parenting time and they need it to be on the other, like these things need to be worked out. The parents need to agree ahead of time and then incorporate the needs of the children and their requests for flex into there. Okay. And then long distance. This can happen in the case of divorce or separation when parents might be in different areas. And this can be because of travel, either the child's travel, maybe with a school group or to college, or a parent travel. I don't think college age kids need to be in a meeting with you virtually every week. But if there's something coming up, pull them in, or maybe it's a monthly meeting. Parents, if you are on the road for work, totally that happens, or maybe you're on vacation. Find a way to get this meeting done either while you're gone or cover all the time, like at the previous meeting before you're traveling, cover all the way through that trip when you're gone. And then when you get back, have the next meeting. Don't let travel get in the way because that will kind of derail everything for when you get back. The big exception. So if the kids are at an unplugged activity, really focusing on they need to focus on real life in-person social connections. So definitely don't distract or pull them out from that for a family meeting. Just do that when they get back. This may mean that the family can't meet all together. You might have multiple meetings because of scheduling stuff. Totally fine. And then the last thing I'm going to bring up again is families with multiple adults where maybe there aren't kids. So maybe there's a set of decisions that need to be made, or there's an active caregiving need because someone in the family is in an intensive medical treatment, or there's some other kind of need that is happening right now. These meetings can be flexed to meet that need. The structure doesn't need to be quite as rigid, and I don't think it's weekly unless there's like a crisis situation happening. All right, let's talk about things that get in the way. I just want to acknowledge that there's lots of reasons why meetings can not happen, and no family is perfect at all. These are all very real, and the structure and the format of these meetings can absolutely flex to meet your needs. But in order to be effective, they must happen, and they really must happen weekly. So I'll just say that right now. If they're intermittent or only occasional for when you're in that active phase of parenting children and teens, if they're not routine, they will be forgotten about. They will not they'll be seen as an interruption in life and not part of what allows life to happen, if that makes sense. So tips for if you're busy. I get it. Put these on the calendar. Schedule these meetings and with your co-parent or whoever you need to meet with, and take that schedule seriously. Like, hold yourselves to that. My guess is that you will find, once you've scheduled them and forced yourself to, that you will find them so helpful that they will become part of your routine without needing to set aside time to schedule them. We talked a little bit about travel, use your virtual tools, but let's imagine your whole family's traveling together. Be creative. Have a meeting at a rest stop when you're on a road trip. Have a meeting at the airport waiting for a plane. If, you know, the nice thing about using a virtual calendar system is you have it with you everywhere. So be creative. Use time that would otherwise be maybe, you know, either disconnected because everybody's just separately on a device, or time that is otherwise not occupied, and do it then. Illness. If you are anyone, excuse anyone who is too sick for school or work. If they just need to rest, have them rest, but do have a makeup meeting when they're feeling better. Here's my caveat. If they are well enough for video games, they are well enough to look at a calendar. So that's, I think, the deciding point that I do. Resistance. They're absolutely very well. I mean, kids have a lot of time they have to spend focused, and they're, especially for young people, they're not used to meetings. It's just like an adults. It's like another meeting that we have to have. We have a lot of meetings at work. Validate that resistance. I know that this is, you'd rather do other things. You have a lot going on right now. I, again, sharing like from my personal life here, I have a junior in high school. This year is crazy. We're working on Eagle Project. He's researching colleges. He's in a million APs. He just went through his like big finals. He's got big presentations going on. We've got auditions for the musical, and he's in mock trial season. There's a lot going on. So we have a second meeting. We not only have the family meeting every Sunday, but we have a set aside meeting on Wednesdays for my husband and our junior to talk about all of those things and make sure that he's getting what he needs from us, that we are offering what we can, maybe helping him come up with ways that we can be helpful, that we understand everything that he's going on and have a lot of empathy, but that we also are helping him learn how to develop plans and structure for himself so that he can meet his own goals. Did he want to do these meetings? No. But when we offer the choice, you know, do you want our help with X, Y, and Z? Do you, and when the meetings actually turn out to be at the end of the day helpful, that resistance is slowly weakening. For a younger child, it might be, do you want a ride to a bar mitzvah this weekend? If you do, then we need to meet so that we can figure out all the things that it takes for our family to run smoothly. And the sooner we get started on this meeting, the sooner we get it all worked out and everybody gets where they need to go. And then conflict. For adult conflict, adults try to get on the same page before the meeting, or if it comes up during the meeting, table it and iron it out after the meeting, and then notify the folks who need to know how it all worked out. If the siblings are in conflict, parents need to work really hard to remain calm, mediate, whatever that discussion is, and then be prepared. You might need to separate and meet with one kid at a time for that meeting, and then try again next week to meet with everybody together. Now, if a really truly large family, if we're talking about, you know, 6, 7 kids, where they're, or families with like totally different developmental stages, a set that are older and a set that are younger, you might want to reorganize your meetings to help with that too. Try to keep these conversations outcome focused. This is not time for an argument. If conflict begins, remind everybody of the consequences of no decision, right? So if we don't work out these logistics, we might not all get where we need to going this week. And then try to pull things back on track. If this doesn't work and you truly cannot get through these meetings without arguments that kind of derail them completely, it might be time to consult with one of us at FSG, where we can help figure out what's happening in the conflict so that you can learn another way to navigate these conversations. We are happy to help. Okay, we've got a sample meeting agenda, and I've got some links in here. These are all in the handout that you already have, or the slides, so you can click on these links, some other organizations that talk about family meetings. Um, we've got the 4 different steps. I think we've talked a lot about these, so and you've also got a handout with the agenda in it. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this side. I'm going to say just a minute about FSG. We are, as I mentioned before, we are here to help. We serve Glencoe and the surrounding communities. So if you work here in town, if you live in a neighboring suburb, we're here for you. We're here for folks from a little farther afield as well. We're here to help. Really, we're experts here on the North Shore. We've been here since 1914. And I highlighted a few of the services on here that I thought would be particularly interesting to folks who are here today. We do a lot more. And if we can't help, we will absolutely refer you to places who can help.